Hello, I'm Henry, and I read a book. I read this book, Yu-Gi-Oh! R number 2 by Kazuki Takahashi and Akira Ito, and I would like to talk about it, please. The maintenance of the internal rules of a fictional universe is one of the biggest stumbling blocks for a fanfic. If you are writing a story in an established world, and that established world has established rules on how it works, you should try your best to adhere to those rules. These rules could be how the magic in that world works, how the science works, how the systems of government and the society works, how certain characters feel about certain things. They are varied and plentiful. Now, I'm not saying you can't twist these rules, I'm just saying you shouldn't really break them. I mean, look at Star Wars for a non-fanfic example. It's 1999, you've got the original trilogy out there already in the world, and you are making the prequels, and you're making a villain for those prequels, at least the first one. How do we make this villain stand out? Well, we'll give him a sick design for starters, but then what? Why don't we have it so he can use the Force to shoot fire from his hands? No. What if he had a double-ended lightsaber? Yes. You see, we're not really breaking the rules, we're just twisting them, and this is why the Force healing from Rise of Skywalker sucks so much. It not only breaks the rules, it breaks the backbone of the entire universe. If Force healing was a thing, why wasn't Anakin like, I'm the chosen one, greatest Jedi ever, and I've just read about this Force healing thing, or I've just figured it out on my own, whatever, doesn't really matter. Padme, you're gonna die, but I'm gonna be there as you're giving birth to heal you, and everything will be fine. I mean, who's Darth Vader? So when it's this easy for an official product to break the rules, how easy do you think it will be for a fanfic writer? Well, easy. My original character doesn't need a wand and he can shoot Avada Kedavra from his eyes. My original character isn't the Avatar, but they can still bend all 4 elements. My original character's car is hypersonic and can fly and has guns and can travel through time. These may sound like over-the-top instances of this rule breaking, and they are, but they actually get more outrageous the more mundane the world they are set in. Imagine if you're writing Sharp fanfic, that's a series set in the real world Napoleonic Wars, and you create a character with bulletproof skin. Anyone reading it would be like, well, that's absurd, change it. So when you break the rules within a fanfic, it comes across as absurd because the rules are so fundamental. Again, Yu-Gi-Oh! R isn't a fanfic, but number 2 here treats its internal rules like Pep Guardiola treats his own face. This talk of the rules ties into my thoughts on this book. I said I liked the previous book because of the duels it presents, and I like duels in their nature as these extended, ebbing, flowing battles that need to operate within the rigid, mental rules of a real-world card game. I think there is a real art in writing a good Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel. Kazuki and Akira clearly did not. Now, all forms of Yu-Gi-Oh! Media tend to play a little fast and loose with their own card games rules. I even pointed out a couple of instances of that in the previous book, and in the first arc of the story there were no rules at all, but my god, the flagrant disregard for, at this point, the well-established rules of Yu-Gi-Oh! Here it's unbelievable. It gets to the point when you start thinking, why are they even bothering with this facade of a card game? Why aren't they just shooting monsters at each other? Now, this might sound like a negative thing, however, I know the rules of Yu-Gi-Oh! Quite well. I got 60 card Paleo to master one time. So when these instances of rule breaking occur, they're actually quite hilarious. And with the introduction of everyone's boy Seto Kaiba, some quite fun developments in the story, and some really quite epic illustrations, I quite like this book too. As I said though, the rule breaking is quite common within fanfic, which means the series still feels like fanfic, more so in fact. But will it get a bingo? This was our bingo card of fanfic tropes from the last video, and while we could just use the same one again, I think mixing it all up might keep things fresher, so ooh, new card. Let's quickly just run through each of these points. Parallel universe versions of characters, flip personalities, dead people be living, living people be dead. Plot twists out of nowhere with no build up or seeming point. Names from mythology is lazy and is unoriginal if you call your new character Gilgamesh, a new character related / connected to an established character. It is very tempting to have a girl show up who's Harry Potter's long lost sister. Edgy, violent, gory, and if it's being illustrated, that classic anime edgelord grin. New characters forming romantic relationships with established characters. Everyone loves your new character, a byproduct of them being a Mary Sue, the ultimate trope. Time travel. Don't do it. A twist on the current powers, magic, science. Despite my preamble about the rules, and we will get back to the rules, this doesn't actually concern breaking the rules, just twisting them. Angst. Everyone blames themselves for all the tragedy that is befalling. Quips. Joss Whedon, you absolute rat of a bloke. Incongruous. It doesn't properly feel like the world it is set in. Doesn't fit in with the chronology. Where the previous point regarded tone and theme, this concerns physical time. Can your story actually possibly take place in the time frame it is set in? Flashbacks. Nothing better than a tragic, brutal backstory told via flashbacks, killing all momentum. Off model. Don't be giving Frodo tattoos and ear piercings. Don't be drawing Naruto without those weird little whisker lines on his face. Over-designed new characters. Yes, it is cool if your original character is the sexiest person in the world with hair like beaten silver, eyes like molten gold, and a leather jacket. But then you need to ask, why do they look like that? Are they an alien? Right, that's this video's card. Let's play bingo. Okay, first things first, still no parallel universe versions of characters or time travel. And unless this series takes a drastic turn, I don't think there will be any. I'm not going to take it off the card though, just in case. Plot twist though, boy do we get some of those. The first is a smaller one. It's the fact that the entire story hinges around a lie told by Bandit Keith of all people. And the second is, well, remember Yaeko Tenma? He's the new original character villain of the series. He's Pegasus's... We'll get back to what he is to Pegasus. Yaeko Tenma sets everything in motion, and we left the last book on a cliffhanger in a duel between him and our hero Yugi. Except it isn't Yaeko Tenma. It is Yaeko Tenma controlling the body of his identical twin, Gecko Tenma. Why? Why is this happening? Well, I'll tell you. To use a wrestling turn of phrase, it is to make sure Yugi is still book strong. This way, Yugi can beat a proxy of the main villain without actually beating the main villain himself and ending the entire series 2 pages into the second book of 5. Plus, it opens us up for another fanfic trope that isn't actually on the card, the redemption arc. You see, Gecko Tenma is actually a good guy. He is an unwilling puppet of his brother, and he is so sorry for all the suffering he has caused. Is that angst I smell? You bet it is. And seeing as we have a twin brother on our hands now, we can also tick off a relation to a main cast character. Circling back to Pegasus, we get some clarification here. He apparently adopted both Gecko and Yaeko. So I would say he's their adoptive father, but he calls them brother as well. This might just be a translation thing, but it's very strange. And of course we are told this information through flashback, so tick there too. No names from mythology, as I'm letting all Egyptian mythology names slide, remember. But we do get some more weird names. Mendocino, Willamette, Ted Benias. What is going on with these names? My favourite name is actually one from the previous book that I didn't mention in the last video because I said it wrong and had to cut that bit out. It's Kirk Dixon. Kirk Dixon. Kirk Dixon is like the manager of a B&Q in like Chesterfield or Doncaster or something. I called him Kirk Gibson in the bit I cut out from the last video, if you're curious. Every time Yaeko Tenma is on panel, the edginess needle is in the red, so we could tick that off. Still no romantic relationship between a new character and an established character though. So close to a bingo. And still no Mary Sue. We'll see how Gecko plays out, because he's got the potential to be both. But he does lose a duel in this book, and a Mary Sue would never lose. The Wicked Dreadroot is still hanging about in this book, and that is an evil version of Big Blue, so he can tick off a twist on the powers. No quips, again, because this came out before the Avengers, and it all still feels very congruous. It's weird, it's random, it's really quite melodramatic, but that's Yu-Gi-Oh, baby. I'm now on the fence of this fitting in the chronology, though. I said in the last video that it did fit, however, I'm starting to doubt that. Everyone's boy, Seto Kaiba, starts this series in America while Yugi and his crew are doing school stuff in Japan. But Kaiba finished the last arc in Japan and starts the next one in America. So depending on the time frame of this series, I'm starting to think it can't fit, though he does seem to be able to cross the Pacific in like no time at all, so maybe it's fine. Why is this jet not a Blue Eyes White Dragon? Everyone looks like they should, so no one's off model, and while Mendocino does sort of skirt the line of being over-designed, probably the most over-designed person is the aforementioned Bandit Keith, who is already an established character, so no tick here. We didn't have a bingo. Again, I could have shuffled the card around to get one, but I wrote the card part of the script before I went back in detail through the book. We ticked off 4 boxes in the last one, 6 in this one, so a bingo kind of seems inevitable at this point. We'll see if we can get one with a fresh card in the next book. Now, I'm aware that I've hinged this entire video around the point of fanfics breaking their universe's rules, and the bingo card we just had didn't address said rule breaking, so let's do it now. Here is every instance of the Yu-Gi-Oh rules going out the window in Yu-Gi-Oh! R number 2.
Yugi activating the Lightning Blade equip spell like a trap card in the battle phase. The selection would not work on Ra, because the Wicked Dreadroot is a fiend, not a divine beast. Switching a monster on the field with a monster in the graveyard after an attack is declared, like here with Soul Barter, would not negate the attack. The attacker would be allowed to redeclare. Also, a monster's soul, what the hell is that? Fusion monsters not being able to attack on the turn they are summoned is a hilarious restriction in the anime too. I guess they were scared of the power of Sandwich. The Legendary Fisherman is a level 5, not a level 4, so requires a tribute to normal summon. My man Mendocino activates the Mantis Egg field spell that says it summons a baby mantis at the end of every turn. He proceeds to end his turn, and nothing happens. Joey summons the Legendary Fisherman again without tribute, and then changes its battle position after summoning it, something he shouldn't be able to do until next turn. Joey then ends his turn, and the Mantis Egg field spell, again, does nothing. Then it decides to wake up and summon a baby mantis in what I'm guessing is Mendocino's standby phase or main phase 1. Scapegoat does not force you to attack one of the goat tokens summoned by it. Mendocino should be able to redeclare and attack Legendary Fisherman like he originally wanted to. Again, Mantis Egg does not trigger in the end phase like it says it does, instead triggering in one of the earlier phases of the next turn. Swordsman of Landstar is not a level 4 monster, despite this cross shift saying it can only summon level 4 monsters. Jinzo does not destroy trap cards on summon. It does not destroy any cards. It negates the effects of trap cards and prevents them from being activated, you know, like it says on the card right here. A Mantis Egg could do one at this point. Shield and Sword is not a quick play spell card and cannot be activated in the battle phase. This written effect of Time Machine and the subsequent game state it produces is so mental that there's no point in even breaking it down here. It's all kind of wrong, just take my word for it. Mantis Egg has stopped doing anything at this point despite it still being on the field and not negated. Then we get Stop Defense listed as a trap/spell card. What in the good law's name is a trap/spell card other than a reason to call a judge and get whoever's clearly using fake cards kicked out of the building? Stop Defense is just a normal spell card if you care. Another instance of an equip spell being activated like a trap card in the battle phase, you cannot do this. With Shrink being a quick play spell and Crush Card Virus being a trap, Kaiba should be able to respond to the activation of this, card hexative. Swordstalker is a normal monster and does not have an effect, and it especially does not have a percentage-based effect. As far as I'm aware, there are no percentage-based effects in Yu-Gi-Oh! For one good reason. Percentages are complicated and really hard and can get really out of hand. Addition and subtraction is hard enough if you're not a darts announcer. Now you want to throw percentages into the mix, get out of here with that. More equip spells being activated in the battle phase, but this one is on another level. Apparently, Synchronic ability allows the equipped monster to copy the effect of another monster on the field, and Willamette here decides to choose his other monster on the field that also has an equip spell equipped to it, causing the first monster to gain the effect of the equip spell equipped to the second monster. This is not how any of this should work. And now we get the introduction of magic attacks, or should I say a distinction between normal attacks and magic attacks. Basically, when Swordstalker attacks with his sword, that's a normal attack, but when Blue Eyes shoots a beam, that's a magic attack. It is basically the physical special split from Pokemon, and is an utterly insane thing to just drop into the middle of a duel here. It is the most playground, making stuff up as you go along nonsense I have ever heard. There is no distinction, an attack is just an attack. And the mad thing is the entire crux of this duel hinges around this magic attack concept. We've got Whitehorn Dragon here with an effect that specifically addresses magic attacks. God almighty. In the last duel in the book, we get equipped trap cards. Those aren't things. This one's effect doesn't make any sense. We get a guy activating Graceful Charity twice and his opponent not immediately conceding like you would if your opponent activated Graceful Charity twice. And lastly, Shadow's spell is a trap, not a spell. I know that's confusing, but it's hardly the worst thing we've just addressed.
And breathe. This is a travesty of rule breaking, and I kind of love it. It's so, screw it, I've got a story to tell, I don't care about your stupid card game. Then it makes you wonder why bother writing this story in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! To begin with, where everything is based on card games. Just another thing that gives this series super strong fanfic vibes. Next video, I think we're going to try and get to the bottom of some of these really bizarre names that are popping up in this series. Still don't know what the R stands for though. Hello, thanks a lot for getting to the end of the video. Like and subscribe. Next Monday I think I'm going to release the section of this video that was sped up at normal speed as just sort of a standalone video, just in case there were any people who seriously do want to see all the rules broken in this one book. Monday after that, movie video, and then we're back to fortnight's time, fanfic bingo in Yu-Gi-Oh! R number 3. See you there.